Okay, B'siyata Dishmaya, we're going to start now the actual Hakdama, what we call over here, what it's called Hakdamas Hamalakit. That's where we're holding. Very, very exciting. This is just Kavaldik. This is mamish amazing. We are starting the actual words of the Heilige Baal Tanya. We're learning the Hakdama to explain the following. Why did he write the Sefer? What was the purpose? Who is it for? What are you going to gain from it? There's loads and loads to discuss. I'm going to try to go maybe the beginning a bit slow, but I do want to move a bit faster as we get into things and as the Olam get more of an understanding to what the Baal Tanya is trying to say. So we are holding now by the Hakdama Hamalakit, and he starts as follows. V'hi igeres hashlucha. V'hi igeres hashlucha lechlolus anshei shloimenu yishmereinu tzureinu v'goy. He is basically, this was the letter that Rav Shlomo Zalman of Liadi, this was the Baal Tanya, sent in 1792 to explain why he wrote his Sefer and how, and I'll tell you this in a nutshell, this Sefer is going to replace Yechidus with him. So in other words, instead of going to the Baal Tanya and asking him your shailas, you have it right over here. It's the most amazing thing in the world, okay? We're going to see over here, and the tzaddikim tell us that when you get connected to a sefer, you can do something incredible. The tzaddikim say that the main purpose of the reason that the tzaddikim collect from the earlier works is not necessarily just to be mechadish something, but really to reveal that which was written already in the Zohar Kodesh or in the Arizal. And not only that, if you see the words over here, what the Baal Tanya is telling us, that he is sending it out to his Hasidim, that means that Tzaddik is speaking to those people that are bound to them. Okay, the Mittler Rebbe explains that if the words of the Sefer are choshev to the person, then it means you are bound to the Tzaddik. Not only that, the more emunah you have in the tzaddik and his words, the more bound you become to the tzaddik, and the more you will receive from his written words of that tzaddik. Which means, when we're learning the Baal Tanya, it's basically as if the Baal Tanya is speaking to us. We're in Yechidus together with the Rebbe. We're together with the Baal Tanya, and we're asking our kashas, we're expressing our wonders, we're trying to figure out what is our purpose in the world and how do we accomplish it. Everything's in this sefer. And the more you have emunah in the tzaddik and understand what the tzaddik is trying to do, the more the words will have an effect on your neshama. So let's go like this. Let's begin. So, Aleichem Ishim Ekor Shimu Elai Roitvei Tzedek Mavakshe Hashem. How beautiful. He's calling his Hasidim, he's calling his people Mavakshe Hashem, people that want to do the Ratzon of Hashem. They want to go into him, they want to have Yechidus, they want to talk to the Rebbe, they want to ask him all their shailas. Ve'yishma Aleichem Elikim Limigodol Val Kotten Kol Anshei Shleimenu D'Midinasenu Smuchoi Shalah. In other words, all the Hasidim that are found in our Medina and all the places that are close to Ishel, Makoimai, Yovoi L'Sholem, V'chayim Ad Ha'olam, Netzach Selavod, Omein, Ken Yiratzin. Hine, Midas Zois. It is a known fact. Ki Margala B'pume D'Inshi. It is a generally known, expressed expression by people. B'chal Anshe Shloimenu Lema. That means a person is much more moved when he hears something from the mouth of the tzaddik, rather than read it in Sfarim. What the Baal Tanya is about to tell us is that there's very little toyeles in reading Mussar Sfarim from the Sefer itself. Because you cannot compare hearing something from the tzaddik, from the Rebbe himself, than reading it in the Sfarim. That's what he's saying over here. What's the problem? What are the chasronis? What is the problem with reading a Mussar Sefer as opposed to hearing it? Of course, it's great to hear it from a Rebbe, but what's the problem with hearing it from reading the Sefer inside? So the Baal Tanya is going to tell us now two reasons why there's a chasron with reading a Mussar Sefer inside, which is interesting because he wrote this Sefer, and he's going to explain to us why this is different. We'll see. We'll get there. I guess the first chasron is that when a person reads a sefer, he understands it according to his seichel, according to his understanding. In other words, when a person reads a sefer, his intellect is limited, and he understands that sefer according to how his intellect works, which is very often very limited. Not only that, another point, he also chaps it according to the matzav that he's in. In other words, the chesaron is that he's not able to fully absorb it. Why? That means it could be that the sefer has the greatest light. It could be that the sefer has the most amazing insight, and it's so deep and it's so wonderful, and so much was put into that sefer. But you, on your personally limited intellectual level, will only grasp a small amount. You won't grasp what really is being said. So I guess the first major chesaron is that you are limited, and you're going to understand it according to your limitations. Ubarmindin, not only that, hine, there's another chesaron with reading Amos Sefer. Sifrei Hayira Habunuyim Al Piseichel Anoishi, right? Even if you've got Sifrei Hayira that were written by the most incredible people, Bevade Eina Shavim L'chol Nefesh, they're also not exact or tailor-made for you. In other words, they're not going to be specified to what your needs are. For example, you go to a Rebbe and you tell him about something that you're going through. He's going to now answer you according to what you need to hear. He knows you, he understands you, and therefore he's giving you what you need to get out. But in a sefer, you're not necessarily going to get that. Ki ein kol ha-sechlon v'dei ha-shavos, ve'ein seichel adam zeh mispoil, u'misoire mima shemispoil u'misoire seichel chaveiroi. At the end of the day, something that may excite or ignite the excitement in your friend's heart will not necessarily work in your heart, and vice versa. So if that's the case, we all have a different neshama, we all have a different, mahalach or hachayim, and therefore what excites us doesn't necessarily excite somebody else. There's a halacha, you see 600,000, you make a special bracha. Right? The Gemara brings the whole thing that we're not going to explain at this moment of time. That means only the Rabbeinu Shalom has the ability to know the exact inside of every single one of us. That's why we make the bracha over there, because it's an incredible thing that the Rabbeinu Shalom is able to understand 600,000 Yidden, right? The Ramban is a sefer Muhammad Hashem, and he writes over there Shom in brachas, beferish hasifrei, right? Gabba Yehoshua, right? Yeshua took over Moshe Rabbeinu as the leader of Klal Yisrael. He was Mani Klal Yisrael in Teretz Yisrael. Shenema, boy, what does it say about Yeshua? Ish asher ruach boy. He had a ruach. What does that mean? How do you understand that? Sheyochel lahaloich neged ruchai shel kol echad v'yechad. The most incredible, Yeshua had the most incredible midah that almost nobody else had, apart from, of course, Moshe Rabbeinu at that time, which is why he was chosen to take over Moshe Rabbeinu's position in being man in Klal Yisrael, which is that Yeshua was able to understand each and every person. He was able to relate to them. He was able to explain to them what they needed to do. We don't have people like that. And if that's the case, that's why it's something special. So therefore, going back to our sugya, even if you got what the Baal Tanya calls Sifrei Yira, so in a Chanami, that's great, wonderful, but how does it affect to me? How is it tailor-made to my avodas Hashem that I need to accomplish in this world? That's really what he's saying over here. It's very hard to get an individual mahalach, right? And then he continues, right? The Heilige Baal Shem Tov HaKodesh once said that any sefer that was written up until the time of the Marsha, some say the Magen Avraham, was written with Ruach HaKodesh. So therefore, says the Baal Tanya, even if you got Sifrei Yira, Asher Yisoidoisum Bahari HaKodesh, Medrashe Chazal, Medrashim, Asher Ruach Hashem Dibibom Midas HaLashoinam. That means the Sifrei Yira that were basically based on the words of Hashem, that of course they were galad by the Rabbonim, V'oiraisa v'kutsha b'richel kulo echad, and we know that Klal Yisrael and the Torah are one, right? We're going to speak about that a lot later on, of course. That means the things that are written over here are mamish coming from the Torah, they're connected with Hashem. V'chol shishim riboy nishmois klolis Yisrael, or prateim, or prateim, adnitzos kal shebekalim, or b'chusei erish ba'amri Yisrael, kulo miskashron ba'oiraisa. Every single neshama in Klal Yisrael has its place in another letter in the Torah, and therefore, if that's the case, the neshama is rooted in Torah. Which means that the way that Klal Yisrael connect to the Rabbeinu Shalom is through Torah. We're all connected in that way, right? And therefore, if that's the case, it would come out that these Sifrei Ayira that are written with Midrashim and everything else should be able to help every Yid connect to it and understand his Avodas Hashem. How he said, there are Klolos or Klolos Yisrael. But no, says the Baal HaTanya, even those Sfarim have a problem because they're written ba'ofen klali. They're written in a very general manner, and therefore, if that's the case, they're not going to show you your personal avodah in this world. It's just not going to work. So let's just continue, and then we'll do a sikkim. That means that even though the word Yisrael itself, right, the word Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, Yisrael is a Rosh Tevis, Yesh, Shishim, Riboy, Oisus, the Torah. That means every neshama in Klal Yisrael has a root in his letter in the Torah, in that case. Yeah? Hare, but maybe you won't know how to find your specific mokoim in the Torah. Okay? Now again, what he's telling us is that it's true that Torah is shy to all of Klal Yisrael, but there's a specific chelik that you need to understand, that you need to delve into, that you need to really, be able to peel away the layers to get right into it, which you're not necessarily going to be able to find. V'hine, auf behilchus isvaheta, haniglas lolol v'nenu. Even Hilchos Basa V'Cholov, let's say, Hilchos Isvaheta, which is Nigla. Nigla means it's revealed. Everyone understands it. It's not something hidden, right? It's not a hidden part of the Torah. You'll find a Machlokes Tanoim and Amoraim on two different complete ends of the spectrum. Ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. But yet, of course, as we always say, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. Elokim is Lashon plural. Plural means, Elokim means it's Rabbim. It means HaKadosh Baruch Hu lords over all of the various elements of creation. And what we're saying over here is that Lashon Rabbim al Shem Makor HaChaim leNishmos Yisrael and Echlokos Derek Klal l'Shloisha Kavim, that the neshamas of Klal Yisrael are split up into three sections. There's Yamin, right, Usmal, the left, Ve'em to the middle. Shem Chesed Gvura, which we're not going to go into at this moment of time, but you've got the Esa spheres, the 10 spheres. In Talmud Devarim and Perek Beis, he goes to them Barichas. Basically, it means like this. Let's just say 1-2 more lines, and you'll understand it. That means that when you find people saying different things, you find, for example, one posik being machmir and one posik being mekel. What's the pshat in that? The pshat is every neshama comes from somewhere else. And therefore, when a person is mekel, for example, Beishama Beis Hillel, right? Everyone knows Beishama in Shas is generally machmir. Beis Hillel in Shas, generally mekel. What's the pshat? Because the neshama came from somewhere else. And therefore, even, says the Baal HaTanya, when we're dealing with nigle, hilchos basa v'cholov, mamish nigle, issa v'heta. But it's still, we find machlokes backwards and forwards because every neshama is different. And if that's true by nigle, things that are revealed, continuing the Baal HaTanya, and we're going to end in a couple of sentences, v'kol shekain, v'kal v'choymer, for sure is the case, b'hanistoris la'Hashem Elokeinu, by things that are hidden. The innen de chilu rachimu de moicha valibo de chol chad v'chad lefum shiur delay lefum ad mishah balibe. For sure, when it comes to things like what we're discussing, which are hidden concepts, there's going to be way more ideas than just one. Which means, how's it going to talk to me? The Zohar Kodesh is mafarish in the pasuk in Mishlei, Bala zu HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that Kadosh Baruch Hu in Knesset Yisrael adoimet to ish ve'isha, husband and wife. And what we're saying is the kesher and the dveikus of every yid with Hashem depends on his understanding, depends on his neshama, depends on his intellect, depends on so many different things. Okay? So what he said over here is that even the Sfarim that are written with such midrashim, which is the chelik of Torah, which will basically by Hashem, even that you're not going to find your place. Okay? Okay, Rabbi, so let's make a sikkum. What have we just said? What we have just said is, and we'll summarize what we've done today. We've said that the Baal HaTanya opened up saying, I'm writing this to all of my Hasidim. But as we said, if you remember, it doesn't mean Hasidim necessarily of Chabad. It means anyone that's going to learn his farm, anyone that wants to know his das and understand him. You can connect to the Baal HaTanya. He's saying there be'etzim is two problems with writing a sefer and learning it in a sefer as opposed to listening to a Rebbe inside. Problem number one is simply that at the end of the day, you are limited in your understanding and your seichel, and you will only understand it on a very limited level. You're not going to really understand the impact. The Rebbe will give it over to you in live form in a much different way. And number two is you have your personal avodah. How are you meant to take out from something that you read an avodah that's a personal avodah for your life? So Rabbi said that's what we've done so far. I hope I wasn't too fast. If I was, then please let me know. Just for those people, by the way, that are listening, you can get the share on Torah Anytime. You can get it on Spotify. And if you want to join the WhatsApp group, send an email to office@beisdovid.com. That's office@beisdovid.com, beisdovid.com, and you can get it on WhatsApp. Want to sponsor a share or dedicate a share, you can also do that as well. Have a wonderful and beautiful day, everyone.